Welcome back, everyone. 皆さん、お帰りなさい。今日は147日目です。It is day 147. A few things to do. We're on the clock now. On the road to 15, right? The road to 15. It kind of looks like we might have some greatest hits on top of the pile. Possibly. Okay. So yesterday. Don't mind my shaky hands in the beginning. Omote. Oh, omote is go with surface or front. Front is kind of okay. Yeah. Sometimes it happens, right? Omote. And then... Oops. Yes. Shiso. Shiso. This was think, contemplate, ideology, thoughts, ideas. Okay. And oh my wobbly hand. Kokoro miru. Kokoro miru. Try to do something. Okay. I think those are the three. One-offs. One-offs. So far, one-offs. This one has others down the line. Well, something to look forward to. Alright, let's get into our reviews. Okay. Oh, I still forgot to do... it's okay. Today is gonna be okay. I still forgot to add a script for reordering. That's okay. Hopefully we don't encounter any of that. Oh. What? Midori. Okay. Excellent start. Typing the wrong thing. Okay. Kakko. Oops. Wait. Sticky na kakko da ne. What? What is going on?
Midori iro.
合格する。解放する。
Okay. Finally hit the miss the button again and hit the I gotta change my mute button. It's too close to the enter button. Okay. Good start, good start.
Geinoukai.
芸能界。
女性。
女性。
人格。
I need to be more consistent with that one. Jinkaku. What the Jinkaku?
願望
願望。ね。
失望
失望。
銀行
銀行。
完成
完成。
旅館
旅館。
一周
一周。
男性
男性。呃呃for example, no, wait. Oh, for example, life.例えば。
例えば
Lots of examples. Out in life. Okay. Is this? That's or yes. What? Wait.
せっかく
Dang it. Gaku. Dang it. Was trouble, alright.
お願いします
Negashima. What did I Ato.
水銀
Begin.
必死
Or frantic, I think. Something like that. Things of that nature.
性格
性格。ね。
芸者
芸者。
暗殺
暗殺。 I heard ansatsu a couple of times in One Piece recently. We're in the Wano arc. Okay.
念願
Engan. Ne?
性病
Debyo.
基本
Ihon.
食事
6時. Okay.
本能
Honno.
執念
Chunen. What? Oh, just kidding. Chunen. 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 Inen? Oh, wait, no. Chunen. Like, lap the year. So what was Chunen? I keep wanting to type annual, but anniversary.
用事
Yoji. Huh. Yoji. Use things. Sure. I'm like, tasks, matters, work. Uh,
希望
Evil. Then help.
例文
Ebun. Ebun.
妥協
Dakyo. That's a really familiar one, Dakyo.
"自殺
Oops. Ah! What? Oh. Wait. What? Hold up. Oh.
教会
I keep typing the wrong thing. Kyokai. Oh, okay. That's why I think about it. This Kai. I'm thinking of this Kai. And not Go. Go and Kai are getting a little mixed up because of the hat. Yeah, they kind of have a coming together, like a coming together, a unity feel to it. So like when you're fitting something together, like things that are suitable or fitting together is coming together, and then Kai is this Kai has a unity thing to like to meet, to gather up, to kind of coalesce into a group. So started kind of blending them together, and my instincts is going to the one that I see more often, which is Kai. as opposed to goal. And yeah. And I'm also having a lot of trouble with that. Or sort of like that. There's another one, jie, to tie together, which is thread. And something else, which eludes me right now. But there's jie as well, to tie together. So you have these three characters that have some sort of element of unity. And then when they're translated, most of the turn of phrases deal with some sort of coming together, like for ones, right? Cooperation, or sorry, organization. So like cooperating is coming together to work on something. An organization cooperates and collaborates together. A meeting is coming together to meet each other. Like there's a lot of cooperation between the three. I gotta be a little bit more diligent. It's kind of nice. I prefer to be able to group. I like the idea of being able to group the essence of the characters, like based on their meaning and stuff, and not necessarily fundamentally based on strictly based on their reads and like their components. I like the idea of being able to feel the characters. So like, oh, if you place this character and this character, I'm looking forward to drawing soon in October again, and being able to like talk about how characters feel, like how words feel. So these things are making me I have stories behind them now, and then like they collectively group together. Like Midori is not just Midori, or like Gin and Midori are no longer just a bunch of collections of characters and radicals. They give me mental images. Like right now I'm thinking of a silver ring. When I think of a giniro, I'm not thinking about the word silver. I'm just picturing something in my head that is silver. And that feels great. I think that's kind of fairly transformative. I think it's I'm definitely a lot quicker. I mean, sorry for those who believe or maybe do have some degree of aphantasia, but for myself, I like to leverage my mental imagery as well. Mental imagery is the non-verbal experience that transcends the ability of written language, right? When you see something, or other senses, when you get other senses involved, like your mind's eye, they don't require translation. You see something and you say what it is. Whatever you choose to call it. I mean, you could call it anything you want, really. You see something and it's like, that's a bubba. That's it. Like, it's just make any noise, like da, ta. That's how mama works. Actually, it's a fun little theory crafting, maybe like theory on linguistics when it comes to why mama and papa, baba, that type of thing, that sound is nearly universal, or like very, very widespread, far more widespread across different languages than others, right? You ascribe the sounds that you can make, but often it's a response to the other senses. Maybe the smell of your parents, I know how that sounds, but the smell, the sound, and the sight of your mother and father gets associated with some of the sounds that you first make. And mama is a very, very, for whatever biological reasons and many other reasons, that is the sound that is very readily available. And then you have it in a lot of the languages. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. Obviously, we'll not ever be able to necessarily explain that because it's observing after the fact. Perhaps. Just tracing back languages, but you would have to be able to somehow trace it back to a point when there wasn't written or historical recordings. Okay, let's see. Pretty neat though. Pretty neat.
式
Ski. Yep. Yep. I do have to admit though, I think if I had to, this might be a good or bad thing or whatever for other people, but doing SRS is so much. This is gonna be a very different take. I think doing SRS is so much harder to learn vocabulary than I could possibly imagine for myself personally, right? Because I'm not practiced with this and whatnot. But at the same time, I think, a bit of a hot take, I think there's elements of SRS that are, for me, I might concede that are fundamentally more difficult at the trade-off of other things, right? When it comes to like reading a story, doing graded readers and stuff. However, then you have to ask the question, then if this is so much harder, why are you doing it? It's because it's so much harder is what makes it interesting to me. So like watching anime, I'm far less engaged than doing SRS. I know how that sounds. Some people might say, no, but I really like watching anime. That's not engagement. Liking something, in my opinion, is not all of engagement. That's why you can like something and it might not be engaging. Like, for example, when you vibe, that's not engagement. That's passive participation, in my opinion. So the word I'm using when I say engagement is you are interacting. You are actively interacting with stuff. So when I'm watching anime, I'm like, yep, what they said, that's what they said. It's like, okay, story's moving along because I have all the context. I've read a lot of stories, I've heard a lot of stories, I've written a lot of stories, I've talked about a lot of stories, I listened to a lot of stories, I saw a lot of stories. So you have all of that working all at the same time. So I'm still in, like, particularly for me at least, I would say I'm still engaged in that nature. Other people, they vibe along. It's like, take me, immerse, like, lack of a better word, they immerse. I don't. I immersively engage, not immerse as in, all right, let's just vibe along with the story and like, okay. No, I immersively engage in it as in, I wonder what's going to happen next. I think this is a setup for this. If it's a classical, if it's a classical Shonen Jump, the things that I know about this writer and this author, I think the next couple events would unfold like this. That is how I immersively engage with my content. So in my opinion, if I had to clarify people who does like all Japanese all the time, and then they usually talk about like immersing in native content and stuff, that's what I mean. That's what I think they're referring to, or trying to refer to, as in you have to immerse correctly. And I like to change the vocabulary, the jargon for it. It's immersive engagement. You are immersive learning, not immersing in things. When you immerse in something, you get lost in it. You become passive, like you're being swept away, like you're just vibing. So what is that? What's the difference between vibing? I vibe to music because I do not have foundational understanding of complex music. So I vibe the music. Like I was yesterday, I was talking to Bill, and he mentioned a math rock band called Toe, and I listened to Toe's top hit. It was called Goodbye, Goodbye or Goodbye. And I just vibed because I couldn't comprehend. That sounds familiar, right? I couldn't comprehend the polyrhythms. They feel great. I was intuiting the polyrhythm. Okay, that's a drum line. That drum line has 3 sets of rhythms that were laid staggered, and then okay, there's the bass line, right? And then there's the, and I was monitoring the beat of the person speaking, right, singing, and then like what pitch they were, but I couldn't organize it. I didn't know where the beat would go. I don't know why this polyrhythm or this 3 sets of unconventional rhythm with this bass line, the relationship between it and why that works. So it's kind of like that, where when you're watching anime and when people say, yeah, immersion learning is goated, immersive learning is more like immersive engagement. If you're thinking just passively consume things and things automatically happen, I disagree. And I think the things that people are describing are not that either. They hope that it becomes that, as in if you really care about your content, you seek to engage actively in it. And in this case, that's what SRS is to me. Where like, if I keep reading all these context sentences, it's actually not as it's not as engaging as trying to look at this character, figure out all the sounds that I have over and over again, like doing it over and over again. Like, what's the onyomi? What's the kunyomi? What is my mnemonic and story behind this character? Like, I'm creating that over and over again. And it's like expanding. The more characters I get, the more, like, this is related to weak. It might not look like it's weak because weak needs a road or a scooter, but it's still fantastic. And then eventually, you know, in the evening comes along, I get to watch anime and stuff. Then I'm engaging it using other tools. Like, I'm no longer doing this, what's the onyomi? What's the kunyomi? No, now when I watch an anime scene, I'm like, what is going to happen next? And what would I say in Japanese when it's going to happen next? Like, you know, Luffy is approaching Big Mom, right? Sorry, spoilers for the 1000th episode or something. Luffy is approaching Big Mom. What would he say when he sees Big Mom? It doesn't say like "Ohayo gozaimasu," right? He doesn't say that. He's gonna say, "I'm gonna kick your butt," but I still don't know how to say that. But when the Japanese comes up, I'm like, that's probably close to "I'm going to kick your butt," and not those words, but you know, or like, so you start blending all the things together. Like, I think there's one thing that I've learned from how people describe their methods, that they do not, oftentimes they use the same methods that they practice one-to-one into their new methods, instead of exploring different methods for different interactions. So for example, do I do the same thing I do in WaniKani When I'm watching anime, I don't. And it's not even close. Like, I don't hear a word and say, oh, that's Kun, that's On, that's this character. No, it's different. Like, I see a scene, I see characters, the guy is shouting about something, they're emoting, there's, other feedback. And I think it's not because people are doing things wrong or right. I actually think it's inexperience. Inexperience and myopia. Figurative myopia, not like eyesight myopia. And what I mean by that is, if you are so trained and so great and invested in a very selective method, then when the content or the way the content presents itself limits the application of the thing that you are excellent at, right? By any means, and it could be sufficient too. Like, you could be sufficient at using graded readers to be potentially fluent or whatever your end goal is. You can learn a lot of Japanese through one method. And again, when that method is no longer applicable to another method, generally speaking, that person who's an expert at that method would reject or push back on other methods, largely because they either don't want to do it, don't see the point in doing it, or the goal has already been reached sufficiently with the method that they have. And for myself, that's not engagement. That's grinding endurance training on that method, which can work for individuals who only do that and it reaches their goal and provides the necessary thing. That to me, in a really big hot take, is learning like a child. You nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. To learn like a child is to pick one method and swing for the fences. The last time I checked, I'm a postdoctoral adult, and even across the short period of language learning, like 1.5 years, I've engaged in like 12 different methods, and I would say 8 of them came outside of language learning. And to me, that's how engagement works. Like, I'm constantly engaged. When I'm looking at this character, I'm doing like 6 or 7 things at the same time. And that's cool because there's a lack of information. There's just legitimately a complete lack of information. It forces you, or it forces me, not saying others, because others might not have the same mindset, right? They might come in with one tool, and if the tool doesn't match the problem, then it's horrible. It's the worst method of all time, right? I come in with a utility box, and I'm just going to be like, oh, no, that doesn't work. Let's go. This kind of works. Let's combine this tool and make it work. And that active engagement in trying to figure it out is my favorite thing. Like, I can't, every morning or every time I get up and I go for a run, my first thought is, I usually feel quite tired. I'm like, oh, I have to do my WaniKani and Hanzahiro today. But the moment WaniKani and Hanzahiro starts, I'm like chucking along, and I remember, oh man, I missed this. Right? There's limited information, and you're just trucking along. So I'm having like a opposite. I feel like I'm having the opposite experience that other people are having, where they this gets old. Like, it gets old because you're constantly doing the same thing, and you're doing it even longer and longer, and it doesn't seem like progress is happening because it's slowing down in retrospect to the goal, the context, right? Your vocabulary is going to increase slowly with respect. It's going to slow down with respect to the whole, right? Learning 10 vocabulary words seem slower when you already know 1,000 versus when you know only 10. But in fact, the rate is still the same. if you keep the rate the same. However, for me, like, there's so much things going on in my head when I'm just staring at this character, and I think that's kind of that's what I describe here is often a big reason why I cannot relate or empathize. I could kind of sympathize with most of the people that I've talked to over the brief 1.5 years when it comes to learning something. When you learn something, like, the harder it gets, the more tools you have to use. And I have a lot of toys up here and a lot of things to do up here. So the more I get to do, the more exciting it is. No, it's not the same as mechanically doing the same thing and refining the mechanics. It's more like the intellectual side of things. It's probably another hot take of why I don't really enjoy heavy input focused video games, because input focused video games, that's great. I see the appeal of it, but oftentimes, in order to achieve those input video games to a great extent, it comes at a trade-off, right? A compromise of intellectual engagement. And then you have the polar opposite, where you have puzzle games, which suspends the mechanical input. However, in both sides, the physical mechanical input also has some mechanical intellectual properties behind it, just less so. And then the intellectual one do have some mechanical properties to it. Like, for example, if you were introduced to the scientific method, I really can't believe I'm saying that now. If you were introduced to the scientific method, because I actually genuinely believe that there are teenagers now who graduate high school and are not familiar with the scientific method anymore, or have forgotten immediately, or just didn't pay attention to the scientific method. That is prescriptional. The scientific method comes as the foundation of trying to set the groundworks for mechanical intellectual exploration. However, that's the beginning. It's the basics of scientific inquiry. It's dogmatic. And then you find there's so much more complexity and nuance in intellectual endeavors, and one of them often it involves, if you're interested in learning a new language, you kind of tackle and stimulate that. Hopefully you stimulate that problem solving skills again. However, I think from my experience, nope. I think the vast majority of people just want to be told what the solution is to get to their goal. Duolingo, WaniKani is part of the path to whatever my goal is in learning Japanese. It is not prescribed. Someone didn't coerce me into believing that it does everything. It was out of academic curiosity. And then from that academic curiosity, I can evaluate where I want to go in order to reach my goals, or whatever academic curiosities I have, right? Very different from someone who trusts someone, did not come up with anything, did not troubleshoot, did not self-evaluate, and fully have a trust me bro situation and hope that they keep looking at the goal while not focusing on their progress, like their day-to-day. So I think that's more the perspective of people that I usually talk to. They are constantly mapping how much closer they are getting to their goal, as opposed to what was it? MAKU Mokse? I got goal recently. It might be in this group actually. I need to start using that a little bit. But yeah, it's so much fun. I don't know. I hope like there's some people out there who still find being restrictive like being provided limited information is absolutely 100% engaging. And honestly, being native speaking, I'm going to be very direct about this. It's incredibly overrated right now. Like, what I mean by that is the aspect of elitism and the cult-like status around achieving native speech is it's unintentionally toxic to intellectual exploration. So yes, certainly doing this in isolation is not going to get you to a prescribed place, but this in itself, this exploration offers other things. Like it's kind of like playing a puzzle game, and the only solution you want is how a real puzzler efficiently solves a puzzle game. Or you could be that other person who bumbled through your way using like 1,000 steps as opposed to like a 5-step optimized native approach to puzzle solving. And eventually I'm going to be able to listen to native content and then have my perspective on native content, but it's not going to replace all the other goofy things that I've discovered along the way. And that's what makes me really excited to talk about Japanese and Chinese every day. Like, did you know? It's like, but that's what's not what it was intended. You know, a native speaker will come by. It's like, well, that's not what it actually means. And they're like, this is the correct way. Then I'm not talking to you. You're not someone who's meeting my mindset. You're supposed to, in my opinion, I like to meet people who say, oh, but this is how we use it, and this is how native speakers use it. But that is a really interesting point that I've never thought about, because I'm a native speaker and I never thought of it that way because you don't speak my native language, for example. So the idea is exchanging different perspectives, cultural exchange, right? Like when I hear a Japanese person learn English, the way they go about interacting with English and like remembering the words, and if they spend time explaining how they got to the English word and like why it's weird, why it's hard for them and whatnot, that to me is probably the most interesting thing as a native speaker. Like it's not frustrating or sad or angry that someone keeps pronouncing like gutto as opposed to good. Like there's no pause. It's good, not gutto, right? So, but I can understand that. So they say gutto. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Can I borrow can I borrow your way of saying goodbye, right? Like that's great. And then of course, making that connection also allows me to say, when they say goodbye, I say goodbye. But now my bye is kind of a little bit weird, but at the same time, it's kind of cool. I think that to me embodies what it's like to learn another language. Not, I do not resonate. It's not that I have anything against people like that. Like we don't have a mindset connection. I do not resonate. You might have my sympathies and maybe my adoration for doing it in a way that I cannot, or choose not to. I guess the word is choose not to. I see learning and being engaged in another culture as a way of cultural exchange, not a cultural isolation or cultural compartmentalization. It's not us and we. No, it's not we and them or I and you, right? Us and them is all of us. So whenever someone goes out and says, oh, that's what you would say, but that's what they say, I'm like, okay, I can appreciate that. It is your prerogative to think that. For me, I want all of that to be part of me. Like, I don't want to be I don't want to be seen as a Japanese person when I'm not. I also don't want to be seen as only an American English speaking person who doesn't understand Japanese. Kind of want to see a blend of it. And then the privilege, quote unquote privilege, I know that sounds a little bit self-entitled or whatnot, is I want to meet a Japanese person who finds interacting with an English speaker who's also learning Japanese as enthusiastic as I am, that they are interested in communicating with someone who speaks English, because it's so magical. It's so fun to see how other people look at my common language. I don't even get an opportunity to there is like a one or two exceptions on the internet, but I don't even get to see what people interact with when I start speaking Fujiwa. And when I go Fujiwa, 冇能用擺做聽。聽你講有人有人普通話仲話 right? Like, and it's like, oh, that sounds kind of like Southern Chinese or like Taiwanese or something, and that's as much interaction as I get because you don't have people learning the language or seeing or writing the language. So it baffles me how unintentionally toxic, if not directly aggressively toxic, that the language learning, the greater language learning community, I know this is not everyone, but the ones that are the loudest, as in the one that tries to distill and stir the pot, they have a resounding appearance and presence that kind of is sufficient to stir people away from the magic of learning different languages. Because yes, I do agree with that one person who basically sounded like a hypocrite, but I did agree with their intent of saying that learning another language is a window into other people's cultures and forms of expression and thinking even. But I disagree with this person that somehow your language is the thing that restricts how eclectic your mind can be. It's really the culture and the myopia of culture that limits how your mindset works. So in a way, that guy was saying, oh, you can learn more cultures, and with that, you can be less myopic. You can become more cultured, right? Through learning like a language on the side. Like if the language opens you up to an interest in the culture, you become more cultured. But the guy, when he was presenting that case, he sounded myopic. He kept pushing away other things while only selectively embracing the things that is not being cultured. That is being actually racist, but that's besides the point. I like the idea. And I'm still smiling despite all of that because that's what language learning is about. It's about looking at that and all you're thinking is like I'm thinking Chinese right now, and like it's kind of hard to read a lot of these context sentences without thinking in Chinese, which is so fantastic. Anyways, I had to, because sometimes I'm randomly like smiling because there's so many things going on in my head. But if I keep saying everything that's going on in my head, I'm literally gonna run out of time doing any of my reviews. Anyways, that's give you an idea. The last 25 minutes, it happened in like 2 minutes as I was looking at this character. Those are all the thoughts, like some of the thoughts that I've had just by looking at this character. It's wild. It's shocking to me how focused other people can be when I'm not focused at all. Like I have some massive manic meandering thoughts whenever I'm doing this, and I don't think it's crippling with practice. Like think about it now. I haven't finished this entry in the last 25 minutes. In some people's lens, they would think that's being distracted, and it is. It can be, but you can also learn a lot from it. You can leverage it, right? I can stare at one character and I can talk about it for hours. It's fine. There's a lot of things going on. I understand when people talk about, oh, they're easily distracted and they can't focus. It's like, well, I can barely have one straight thought. Like, stay on the task, right? Stay on the task. Like, that's well and good, but there are lots of benefits, or lots of utility. We'll say utility, not benefits, but utility, from being able to get at a lot of things, you know, get at one thing from a lot of angles. So much fun. Okay. Anyways, so I'm actually now stuck on this character. Okay, that's not it. Oh, right.
周り
周り I don't think it stays the same, right? No. Does it? No.
Hone.
Hone.
Ichigo.
Ichigo.
Rise.
Ise. Wait. Feature a reason? Oh, like, okay, we're fine.
Gazo.
Gazo. Okay.
皆さん。
皆さん。
骨格。
骨格。ね。Okay. Ah.
殺人。
殺人。What? Wait.
Mile.
Mile. I typed the wrong thing.
Nozomu.
Nozomu.
相談
相談。
才能。
才能。That's not how you spell talent.
官僚。
Hanyo.
Korosu.
Korosu. Uh-oh. No, this is weak. Alright, so we have preserve plus 2. We're looking for the kun. How many kuns do we have? Or do we have a word outside of this? So we have ho for onyomi. It's definitely not hotsu. Preserve. What are we preserving? I feel like I have 2, right? 2 vocabulary words with this. No. Tairoku or something niwa mainichi training na wa emasu. That doesn't help. This one's tough. So we have hoji. Hoji is to keep. Hoji, then seiho, which is life insurance. And then Oji Suru. Yeah, this is the only one. I think this is the only one of the kun reads. I actually think this is going to be the same issue, where this is the only different. This is special. This is the only special vocabulary word. It's the same situation. It keeps coming up every time. There's not much to do with it other than no. I think, in my opinion, these things are probably the weakest part about SRS. Because they don't have any like meta layer of convergence on this. It's the same for Hansa Hero as well. Because there are more exceptions than anything. And exceptions require higher repetition, in my opinion. And I don't think it's high repetition like in the same manner, like having the same repetition. You just find it out in the wild and hope to converge on it. So what would I say? I think it's Tamotsu, but I don't know why it's Tamotsu. Yeah, it's tamotsu.
保つ
Okay, to preserve something, yes, we know. But what do you got for it? If you want to learn how to preserve something like fruits and oh yeah, this one's terabad. Tomatoes, tamotsu. you start with tamots. Oh my gosh, this one. So what we're thinking about tamots or tomatoes. I haven't thought about any extra layers to add to this. No. I just need to be a little bit more goofy for tamots. Okay. Alright. I mean, I'm obviously repeating it myself, so at the end of the session and at the beginning of the next session, we repeated it another few times, see if it alleviates until I find some other way to connect it to something. I am willing to bet it is probably the only tamots. And wait, and probably the only example of the kun. So tamo, right? But everything else is whole. Let's see. Yeah, we got the 4, right? Hoji, seiho, and then there's tamotsu, and then hoji suru. This is hoju, hoju teki. Yeah, I didn't get this character yet. Hoshu teki, right? Hojo, hoken, hozon. Oh, that's interesting. Hozon. Yep. Hoshu, hoshu shiki, hoshu, hoshu, shugi. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Hoko, hogo suru, and yeah, they're all holes. So it's tamo that we gotta make some extra effort into tamo. Tamotsu. I am not surprised the least bit that I ended up on one that has the least convergence. The exceptions, right? The exceptions. It could be a high frequency word though, right? One thing that could be used to weight some of this is maybe have like a weighted frequency of use, but the frequency of use would then require context sentences and paragraphs, and that's where like graded readers come in really well, and other things where oh, you can see that it's used very often because by frequency, then when you're describing stories and whatnot, it'll come off more frequently. So I'm not too concerned about exceptions. If those exceptions are very high frequency and you engage in other content, right? Other content and other things, the exceptions end up becoming incredibly ingrained, largely because if they have high frequency use. If they aren't, they're forgotten, and you learn them through the context of other things. So you can surmise enough of what the special exceptions are, whether you could read it or not, or pronounce it, or what have you. There's going to be a point of reference in which you can infer what it means, and that's fine too, right? So not concerned. However, it is worth highlighting and trying to repeat the exceptions. If there's any language that I would say embodies the spirit of needing to repetitiously be exposed to either the same thing or various things, would be English. In contrast to what that person said, that translating and repeating things over and over again and stuff and remembering vocabulary, it's not about that because it's not culturally relevant. It actually, but those things are, in my opinion, arguably also part of the language learning experience, and it is culturally relevant for certain languages. English is most definitely one of them, even though that person literally cited English as not an exception. As in, you do not have to repeatedly hear could instead of, the difference between could, would, should versus like mold. And I don't know. I can't even think of the exceptions, right? The exceptions come up when they come up. So it's interesting when someone says you can't possibly understand and learn something about English speakers and how they approach languages and stuff because you're not engaging or immersing in native content, but you're trying to break it down in something. What do you think grammar classes are for? And why are kids growing up with vocabulary like that? That's how I learned English. I guess maybe I'm just the guy that's wasted most of his life learning English very, very differently from all my classmates or something like that, and that somehow makes you understand the English culture, like English speaking, whatever English speaking country you're referring to. It's weird. It's all of the above. It's all of the above. I think I definitely push back a lot more when someone like aggressively pushes aside things that exist already. You can encourage people to do other things, but marginalizing something, especially something that is the majority, is a weird way to approach demonstrating how wise you are, for example. So like when someone goes up to someone and say, grammar is not important. Oh yeah? What evidence do you have for grammar is not important? My evidence, not all the people that grew up learning grammar when they acquired their first native language. In English, I can only even speak about English classes, like American even English classes. So I mean, some even other Americans would argue with me like, nah. I learned to speak English and I failed grammar class, or like I failed English class. That's perfectly fine. When you fail, that doesn't mean you didn't learn anything. I'm just saying, like, and then when you listen to other people, other native speakers, like in the United States, they might not have failed their grammar classes or English classes. Where do you think they are giving you the structure and stuff of, like, for instance, if you ever think that I'm a native English speaker, then you are inheriting the consequence of someone who studies grammar. And that, to me, is why I have a particular bone to pick with individuals who, instead of pushing forth and refining, constantly demonstrating how great their methods are, they spend even more time pretending, ignoring, or aggressively downplaying what already exists. If you have an evidence-based approach on why your method is better, I don't necessarily think you have a requirement to ignore or pretend and marginalize other evidence that goes against your premise. That, to me, is someone who is excellent at linguistics, but probably underbaked in logic and scientific inquiry. It kind of makes it even worse for me when someone says objectively and scientifically this is the most optimal way of learning a language, and then you go to their evidence-based approach of what their methods are, and it's a lot of wonderful supporting evidence for their methods while having fallacious logic refuting other evidence that is honestly irrelevant to the efficacy of their method. Like someone selling immersion while saying other methods are bad. It's not relevant to how effective your immersion is. And then saying that they don't work when they clearly do is, in my opinion, a red flag for that person. As in, they spend more time trying to refute their competitors or other conflicts of interest instead of playing with them, or maybe even integrating some of that into their method. So if you start your prevailing way of portraying your product or your method by not talking about your method, that to me is a logical fallacy. That's fallacious logic. Like telling me Anki is great by starting with Duolingo sucks. That is, Anki is great whether or not Duolingo sucks. It's irrelevant if Duolingo sucks. And then, someone will say like, well, no, Duolingo is relevant to Anki because Duolingo is trying to do SRS wrong. And I'm like, if it's doing it wrong, have you considered the idea that it's not doing the same thing? Because clearly Anki and Duolingo have, you're suggesting that there are two different populations of people, right? That's compartmentalization. Like Anki users can't be Duolingo users and Duolingo users can't be Anki users, right? That's the way I think language learners, especially gurus, present their case. If you're immersion, you can't possibly learn grammar. If you're immersion, you can't possibly do translational work because it doesn't work. That's kind of I feel the strongest. I still have my fingers crossed that those are minority opinions, as in the louder minority voice or the louder gurus out there, the louder people, because they want to make money, they want to sell products, and they truly believe in their method, and I totally give them all the prerogative. Like, they have the right to do that and celebrate that. Much like I have the right to tell them that that sounds incredibly unengaging, to view and reductively reduce the richness of academic exploration by limiting yourself to that. Yeah, I can tell you now, I am that kid in the back of the class that was creating like designs out of sentence diagrams in English class. Like, dude, I've never thought of deconstructing an English sentence with like brackets and stuff. It's like a video game. I'm practically making a maze, and I would love someone to make a video game out of sentence diagramming. There is one that's kind of close, like close in concept, and is what is the game called? Like Baba, or like Baba ends with you. Wait, hold up. What is that game called? Because they play on language. What is it? Baba is You. I love the concept of this game. I still haven't played it, but Baba is You is fantastic. It's a great example of under the hood. You can see how like using English as a puzzle game, where you play on words by moving the words around that creates like different ways of interaction, that in my opinion is for someone who likes grammar or sentence graphing or people who like linguistics. So it's someone who likes language learning is not someone who dismisses aspects of in my opinion, of language learning, period. Someone who likes to appear like they are a native speaker and speak well their native language, that's perfectly fine. I think it's a little bit disingenuous or misleading when you put yourself as a person who has the solution to language learning or encouraging people to want to learn language, and then you spend most of your time discouraging language learners or a specific type of language learner even. In fact, it's not even that there are those specific types of language learners. They're targeting an imaginary ideal language learner in order to push their product. Like, oh, you'll never become fluent if you always translate. The last time I checked, you can try really, really hard to always translate, and I still don't think even the most diehard people will always be translating. Like, there are going to be words that if you always translate for like 10,000 times, you're going to passively not stop translating because it will be so dull that you found other ways. Like, imagine something, like a picture that's not translating to them, apparently. Like what I said earlier, like Midori, I saw Midori so many times. All I see is a green block. I actually see a creeper, by the way. I see a Minecraft creeper when I think of Midori. This is what I imagine. That's actually what I'm picturing right now, immediately when I see Midori. So I don't know. It's so absurd and so disappointing that someone could be so narrow-minded and try to sound so cultured at the same time. Like, oh, I'm really cultured. By the way, I think that lots of language learners, all they do is translate. They always translate. Well, you'll never become fluent when you're always translating. It's like, I agree, but the vast majority of people don't always translate. In fact, I would say less than 5% of people always translate. Like, what does that even mean, always translate? And then never being fluent? Well, when you always do something, then you never do something else. So if you always speak English, you're never going to be fluent in Japanese. Yeah, that's true. If you're always writing, you're never gonna learn how to speak. If you're always listening, you're never gonna see. That's the idea. It's provocative when you follow the narrative. It's not provocative. It's actually asinine and myopic and misleading when you step back and think about what human beings do on a normal basis. Like, what are you doing when you're sleeping? Are you always translating too? I don't understand. Like, how can you be so confident in saying always and never, and it's the same as selling a product? Results guaranteed. I was like, yeah, it sounds great on paper if results are guaranteed. It's like, oh wait, let's go read the fine print. Results are guaranteed if you're always translating, right? That makes sense. So if you are a person who only thinks in English, I guarantee you'll get better at Japanese if you buy my product. Well, yes, of course, you're selecting for someone who always translates, or you're trying to. Then of course your success will be like 99.9%. And that's, in my opinion, how internet commerce works. Do you always feel depressed? Well, buy my book. It will almost be guaranteed that whatever I say, you'll be less depressed. Because you bought the book, you're psychologically invested at least 1% more than the depression you have now. Of course, you can nearly guarantee a better result because anyone who purchases something has a placebo effect. At minimum, have a placebo effect. And then when you are advertising it, you are literally trying to target the person who's always depressed. Yes, your product is going to work then. Even placebo produces more than 0%. In fact, placebo produces most of the effects of people who, instead of using statistics and evidence, they present all or none cases. Let me know what people think. I'm genuinely curious how often when someone says, if you have a product right now, and speaking blankly to this nebulous mold in the future, the next time, if anyone, you're watching, you're scrolling, and then you see this product, and this person's like, oh man, I really believe in this product. Then rewatch the ad and ask yourself, what is this product targeting, and what are the keywords that are being used to target the product? Because this product can be incredibly successful if they are able to convey the target audience, and then evaluate how small and exceptional that target audience is. It's a great exercise in understanding how a product could be so hyperbolically well received, right? Well received as in the people it helps, it does help those people. The question is, are you one of those people? If you're like, I'm kind of like 50-50, then there's a 50-50 chance that it'll help you. So then when you buy into a product, you don't get slapped in the face and say, oh, it didn't work for me, but I bought it, it's on me. Or you could like violently put 1-star reviews, however. But emotional upset tends to be nearly double-edged to the person who's targeting. So the stronger and more selective their targeting audience is, comes with a double edge. However, it also means if they're very effective at communicating to a very specific audience, their product will be consistently successful and it'll be well received. That is to explain what a niche product is. For example, there are wonderful communities who still swear by taking silver droplets for, I don't know, antibacterial prevention or something, because like apparently silver chelates bacteria and it's inert in your body, like as long as it targets the proper audience. So in my opinion, that is exercising clarity in scientific analyses. If someone is saying, hey dear stranger, are you always struggling with Japanese vocabulary? Like when you listen to an anime and you're just like, you can't put the words together, like everything just sounds the same. Well, I've got a product for you. We're gonna teach you at least one sentence a day, and that's one sentence more than you know. So that product would be targeting someone who believes that they understand nothing about Japanese, right? So if you understand, if the ones that they're targeting are more likely to believe they understand nothing about Japanese, then anything they sell is more than nothing about Japanese. That's emotional targeting. Businesses, wonderful snake oil salesmen are very excellent. Well, not excellent, but target low-hanging fruit. It sounds less striking and emotionally impactful when you say, huh, if you're an advanced learner and you're well aware of what you need, this product may not work for you. However, give it a try anyways. That is typically an advanced product, a product that has nuance, and you can't cater to the awareness, and you can control your target audience because your target audience is incredibly wise already. What does that look like? Stepping into a scientific seminar and presenting to a peer of multidisciplinary 200 plus audience, and all of them will make you nervous, and you're going to try your hardest to be as encompassing and exclusive while also rebuttaling in the speech, in the talk. So what does that sound like? Politics? Or your scientific seminar. Like if you walk in and watch someone present at a scientific conference, they will often sound like they sort of have observations, sort of have results, sort of have a theoretical model, but rarely does it ever say things like, oh, I believe this is true, this is going to happen, that will happen, and this is what we thought, and it did happen. That's salesman's. And I honestly think that is incredibly amateurish. Yes, it's amateurish, but it's profitable. It's incredibly profitable. So you can have very well received products as long as the target audience is specific. And I do that too in seminars. Like, who is my audience? Who are my audience, right? How many groups and stuff, and I would make the seminar appropriate for the audience. That increases the chance of pragmatic success. Although for that case, often academics come first as opposed to trying to sell them something. So interesting. I thought about this quite a lot because I've been told to try a lot of products, like quite a lot of products, and without saying too much, I'm gonna spoil this already. And most products that I use, I'll find ways to make it useful. And that's about it. I'm usually satisfied when I buy a product. Does that mean that it gives other product producers reason to slack off and target ideal audiences in order to make a quick buck? That's up to ethics and moral dilemmas. But I can definitely see justifications or rationales for them. In terms of language learning, I think there's a huge market for insecurity. Are you afraid of spending hours learning Japanese? And what they're saying is they're targeting someone who doesn't want to do that. They're targeting someone who doesn't want to learn the language. They're targeting someone who wants the result of the language with the least amount of effort. Those are very clear business tactics, and they work for money. And they also work to satisfy people. Like, you're still getting people to learn the language. Mission accomplished, right? For myself, I don't buy those products. Like, I tend to avoid those products. So if you want to hear my 2 cents, is that I would say, how insecure are you about learning something? Measure that, and then ask yourself, how commonly will you overspend and overcommit on that insecurity? In my opinion, that may lead to a more fruitful and potentially ability to establish a lifelong relationship with the target language. Without having enough self-awareness, one can become incredibly vulnerable to emotional targeting. Like, for example, gacha games. They can target gambling, the lack of self-awareness to gambling compulsions, right? Depression, targeting FOMO, right? Targeting recency bias. I'm a recency bias guy, so I keep that in my front all the time. When someone asks me what's my favorite anime, recency bias. I usually talk about the things most recent because they are most emotionally available, the most current information, and they relate to the most number of people outside myself. So I typically talk about something that's recent. And then I try to practice this exercise of wait, but if you want me to say something from the past, I can give you a couple examples, right? I think a lot of this deals with people who want to make money, but also gather money to pursue their calling, right? However, the way they do business is not because they specialize in business. They see what other people do in the business that is most efficacious in raising money while also pushing for a good cause. So in this day and age, the internet targets people's insecurities in order to sell a product. And since that is the most pragmatic way, and it has demonstrated statistically and with evidence that it has become the most efficacious in order to farm people online, then sure enough, it's not necessarily an act of malicious intent, but more of an act of being efficient, right? What is the most efficient way to learn Japanese? That's what you're looking for. I'm not looking for that. But what motivates someone to obligatorily look for the most efficient way to learn Japanese? They might have an insecurity or a concern about how much time it takes to learn Japanese, because they believe the more time you spend learning Japanese, the less and less likely they will be successful, right? That would be a natural logic of way. So if you understand that logic, you can target that logic with your product. Hit all the key points. Make language learning fun, make it engaging, also make it have less time, and then phrase that in a way that is bad, but your product removes that. So, are you afraid of spending 10 hours of language learning, memorizing, and then only to forget it next week? And then you go and watch your favorite things and realize that you spent 3 months and you can't even process what's going on in the anime? Well, my product will allow you to watch those same anime episodes, and it'll break down automatically what you need to do and what you need to hear in real time as you're watching the anime. Sure, our product might extend the time of the anime, like it would take time and we would slow down the anime and add some time to your anime exploration, but you like that anime and you are also learning something in the process. Check, check, check. That's 4 insecurities in a row, and you have a product for immersion, right? You hit the 4 or 5 insecurities, and then you present a solution, and you turn any potential logical fallacies into incentive, into a convenience. So no, you're not being more efficient when you're watching the anime passively. You are consuming less content when you are using an aid like, I don't know, Plucko or plugin or sentence mining. But they know, the person knows that if you can make a product active for someone while also using that time to layer the activity a person already uses, it is the least resistance to a habit formation. And in the future, when you're watching anime, you naturally develop a habit of pulling up your Plucko and pulling up your Anki for mining purposes. But it might not look like mining. It may look like immersion, because you're immersively learning in the activity that you have, and it will no longer, in my opinion, seem like you're doing an activity like this, because you don't typically do this. The last time I checked, when you're talking to someone, you don't see a card show up like this, right? And then you assembled it and whatnot, right? However, this is a different dimension of language learning. So you can spin it all you want. Generally speaking, all of these things come together. They're part of the whole. And no, I don't sell products, but I came up with that thing on the spot. So maybe it might not sound as eloquent as the next influencer who's trying to sell your product, but give me like 6 months. If someone hires me to make a product and then like a slogan for their product, I think 6 months is very sufficient to create something of that influence. But that is understanding how human behavior works, consumerism and communication. I think a lot of people, they don't really worry about the business consequences side of things and their product things. They really truly believe in their method, and they're going to do whatever they can to make that method widespread. And in the end of the day, it's not malicious. It's a balance between being pragmatic and also pushing their vision, right? And it can lead to more people learning Japanese or be interested in Japanese. So you could say, you could be like a goal-oriented person and say, well, it's the ends that justifies the means. And I, in response, would say it's the journey that matters, not the destination. So I'm on the other side of things, right? The destination is fantastic when you get there, whatever it is, but every destination along the way is also a destination. So, all this a really hot take, but so far, I've met quite a lot of people who want to believe that they like the journey, but oftentimes whenever they talk and speak about things, they're talking about the destination, and rarely do their satisfaction, at least in my opinion, exercise that they enjoyed the journey versus the destination. And that's perfectly all right. I think being aware of that is very powerful. It can like allow one to feel like they're in control of their decision making, as opposed to being swayed by a person who maybe coincidentally targets your vulnerabilities, your insecurities. Like, how do scammers work? And this time I'm actually talking about malicious people, not any of these people. So we're not talking about like language learners who aren't businessmen, but they need to make a living out of their passion stuff. We're not talking about that. Those are unintentional. They're magnanimous in a way, but also pragmatic magnanimity, right? But now we talk about scammers. Scammers are even more amateurish. They deliberately, full stop, unequivocally place in as little effort as possible, but target the most available insecurities. Like, for example, masquerading as an IRS agent in the United States around tax day, right before April 13th. I don't even know when the tax day deadline. I usually do my taxes three months in advance. They target people who are right at the end, and then they would masquerade as IRS agents, which is actually a crime, but I guess if you don't get caught, you keep doing it. So they masquerade as government officials and tell you, hey, you have missed your tax deadline, or tax deadline's approaching. I know that you're avoiding tax things. I've heard, they tackle fear, the thing. And if you're aware of your taxes and you keep active engagement of your taxes, when that person calls and leaves like this fake IRS message, my first thought is, I already did my taxes. I checked it yesterday. In fact, I keep track of it. There's no way I could be scammed by this. because I already keep track of my stuff. That's the same technique that the loudest and most sensational language learning influencer is using, but in a coincidental way, right? Because what you see is they're not businessmen, at least in my opinion. Some are, some might be not, but when a person releases their first product and they're not in the business field, you typically look at other businesses and how they work and then start there, right? So they're doing the refinement thing. So no like grievances against first-time businessmen. Like I don't sell products. So the first time I'm going to sell products, I'm probably going to make a lot of the same starts and then see where it goes from there. You know, you start with a business model, test it. If it works, then you refine it. So everyone has to start somewhere. So my observations about business is observing other businesses. Maybe my starting position is a little bit in a different consideration, but still it would require experience. Scammers, in my opinion, uses the least amount of effort and target the lowest hanging fruit in order to get people to buy your product. And I think the internet, most people like to do what they want. Like what I mean is they want to do their dream job and stuff. So business is not the biggest concern for them. So what they kind of often do out of convenience is to mirror whatever is working now. Cue the microtransaction live service model and shoving AI down your throat, that type of thing, right? And I think language learners, people who sell language learning methods, teachers and stuff are not exceptions. We're all human. So I don't want to make it sound like this is a bad thing or people are inherently bad, or but you got to start somewhere. So that's a way to deflate a lot of possibly a little direct, a little aggressive that I was becoming. All right. Anyways, lots of thoughts. Lots of thoughts. Okay.
Ganko.
Ganko. I was gonna save some of this type of talk for when I play Neverwinter today, but I couldn't resist. Couldn't resist.
Gin.
Yin.
Oru.
Oru. Okay.
映画館。
映画館。
私立。
私立。No. No. Wait. Like stand? What? Wait. Pizza. Koichi. So Jiritsu. Jiritsu is. So is Shiritsu and Jiritsu. It's the way they're. No. Yeah, I think the way this is the English that they're using doesn't help with it. Jiritsu and Shiritsu needs to change. I don't think this helps the way they're doing these two. So let's go back. It's one of the answers that I typed, but it's not quite there. And I had this problem multiple times. And then Jiritsu is the thing that's paired with as well. So I think this is supposed to be private or personal, but they don't have personal. Yes. So we're gonna... Oh, they do have personal. I'm gonna write private life and personal life as well. Because you're talking about something that's personal and private to you. Like your personal life's area, your personal, like your private life's area, things that are of yours. So that to solidify this. And Jiritsu is independence, freedom, and choice or something like that. So oftentimes, like when you're talking about Shiritsu, like Shiritsu Daigaku, you're talking about your own personal lives. Like you're referring to something that is private to something, like private to an organization, private. So, man, I don't know. Let's not add life, but I wrote private, personal like 8 billion times. But the I in the she is what's kind of... It's okay. That's gonna get blocked out. I'm not gonna busy myself around this. Wait, when you see this, right? This is a private college. The only way you can interpret this is a private college. It's often attached to in something. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, this is like the 4th, maybe the 5th time consecutively. And I linked this up with Jiritsu. Pretty sure Jiritsu, freedom, independence, liberties. That's fine. I'm not gonna bother with it. Context will be sufficient. In that case, less is more there. Or less is closer to the correct answer than thinking about where you would find Shiritsu and Jiritsu. Is this the one? Is this the one?
卒業
This is the one. Tsukio. Tsukio.
能力
能力。
性
で、
例外
例外。Oh, I saw this recently. 例外, which is cool. It was on a talk show, and they were saying you can do something except this, like with the exception of this. I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat.
芸人
It was also a comedy talk show. You're like Osaka type of feely.
入館料
入館料ね。
人参
人
橋
い
周期
周期
一例
一例
骨折
骨折
束
束
完全
安全 I think I used complete 3 times in a row. But they're different completes, but it's kind of comical. That's a bit of a crutch. Starting to become a bit of a crutch.
望み
Nozumi. And I think I use like wish, desire, or hope. Okay, just willy nilly. Do the rest of the
協力
協力
硬い
硬い Okay. Alright, we got one. Tamat. I guess I could throw in Shiritsu. Let's throw in Shiritsu. I might have blocked something else. Shiritsu is I plus stand. Right. And personal / private. I think either. But it's more private than personal. So we'll use private. And Shiritsu. Okay. Let's do this. Third day. Yeah, after third day. It's good enough. Okay. Pool, animal, public well, art, talent, and bar. Ichigo, Okami, Sotsu, Kyo, San, Chu, Ho, I, An, Ki, Nen, Setsu, O, Sai, Soku, Matsu, Zan, Eki, Nen? No. Yaku. Yaku. Ge. Ki. Sho. Se. Kaku. No. Otsu. Ga. Kun. Gan. I. Gan. Alright. The two we have preserve and tsu. Right? Preserve and tsu. It's the only read on it. And it's tamatsu. Tamatsu. Or tamatsu. Tamatsu. Preserve. So I'm about to sneeze. All right. Sorry. So tamatsu to preserve something. Tama. Do I got anything with tama? To preserve? Doesn't help that tomate. Tomato. Actually, hold up. Nope. Tomato. Man. I was thinking maybe there's like some sort of slang or conjugation weirdness. No, it's still tomate. Tomato. As opposed to tomate. Tamas. Tama. Is there anything I can do with tama? No, I got nothing. Stick with rote memory for now. Legitimately, I can't think of a creative way. Bao? How could I use bao for this? Protect? Tomato bao sounds not that great. Not that advertising. Oh, you know, no. I'll think about it. And then right. Shiritsu. Wait. Shiritsu. Private. I think this is fine. Hold. I don't know why, but I need to make sure. What? Oh, that's awkward. About... Of course, that doesn't show up. Okay, we're fine. I didn't want to make an embarrassing whoopsie. I have to double check. Alright, it's fine. That's a wrap, right? That's a wrap for WaniKani today. Thanks for listening to my spiel. If you're gonna watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu, right? Thank you. Always feel free to follow along. Come by, talk about what was the last product you... I honestly love to hear what was the last product you bought. How, why, did it target you? Like, what is it that it said that ended up targeting you and convincing you to buy the product? Or perhaps you had some reason to buy the product already, or it's the only product around. That's kind of interesting thought too. Yeah, would love to exchange some ideas and talk about other forms or other perspectives of motivation, right? I'm gonna get up, stretch a little bit, and I'll be back for Hanzahiro. So for all the WaniKani or Japanese interest peeps, minasan mata ne. See ya next time.